So a few weeks ago, I got this comment from my dear friend Gaby. The comment's in Spanish, but I'm gonna give you a little translation. She said, "Sorry, not sorry, I would live forever." Now, as I stated in that video, that is the wrong answer to the question. Today, I am going to prove it. So, Gaby, look at me right now. This is what I think of you. And this video goes to you. Hello everybody, welcome to my TED Talk about why immortality kind of sucks. So to explain this topic, I am going to talk to you about this man. His name is Jorge Luis Borges. He is an Argentinian essay writer and philosophist. He also wrote little tales. Most of his stories revolve around the idea of infinity. So that's what we're gonna talk about today, one of his stories that talks about infinity, specifically the story The Immortals. So first off, what's the story about? So the story starts with this man. It's described in the book as a very old man with gray skin. So I thought this picture would work. His name is Joseph, and Joseph is immortal. It's not stated in the first page, but I mean, you can fill in the blanks, right? He's very old, so you know. So he goes up to this woman, this princess, and he sells her a bunch of books. A complete collection of the Odyssey and the Iliad. I guess the first translation of the Odyssey and the Iliad. The princess buys them from him and talks for a little while with him. She says he's kind of weird, but like, it's cool. I don't know, it doesn't really matter. When this man leaves, she starts reading the Iliad, and then she's like, okay, well, let's read the Iliad. And surprisingly, there's one last chapter for some reason. And this is not part of the Iliad, it's just like a diary entry. So she starts reading it, and then she translated it, and that's what we are supposed to be reading, you know, kind of like with the Lord of the Rings. That's like the lore behind the story we're reading. So basically the diary starts with Joseph telling us his past. He was a young, when he was a young man, he used to live in Greece, so that's how old he is, you know, in ancient Greece, and he was like a warrior. I don't know, it's not really stated what he is, but one day a man on a horse walks by and he asks, "Hey, are we in, where are we?" Our protagonist says, "Hey, we're in the Nile River." "Oh yeah, this is Egypt." But he is Greek. The horseman is like, "Oh, well, that's not where I'm going." So he's like, "Yeah, I am looking for the fountain of youth. That's it." And then he just skedaddles, right? So this gives old Joseph an idea. Hey, why don't I go there? So he gathers an army, and then they just leave to the middle of the desert to find the fountain of youth. Now, of course, the travel to the fountain of youth takes a while, and eventually his army gets angry and just like leave him. And yeah, he's just alone and sad in the middle of the desert, wandering for days, I guess. And then from the horizon in comes the city, you know, what he's looking for, the city of the immortals, where the fountain of youth is. Okay, so after this, a bunch of stuff starts happening. He's just like wandering around a labyrinth and a cave, and it doesn't really matter. He eventually drinks from the fountain of youth and he becomes immortal. That's the important part about this story. It's kind of weird. I'm sure there's a message behind it, but I'm not gonna get into it. So then he finally makes it to the city, and turns out, hey, the city's kind of scary, it's kind of weird. He doesn't understand it, it's inhuman, and he's terrified of the city because it's weird. He gets like nightmares. I don't know. This story is very dense. It's like 10 pages long, but it's really dense, like really dense. I fell asleep twice reading it. So yeah, he's there, he's alone, but then a man starts following him, and they become friends, and this guy is Homer. Not Simpson, but you know, the writer of the Iliad. he's there for some reason. I don't know, it's not important. Then a bunch of stuff happens. It's really not important to what I'm going to talk to you about, but eventually he dies. That's what you have to know. Yeah. So now let's go on to the philosophy, because I feel like that's the part that that's the point I'm trying to make. The story is fun, but this is my argument, right? So my first argument is, when you're immortal, your memory is going to get wonky. The fact that you're immortal doesn't mean that your brain stops working how it always has worked. And memory is one of the things that our brain is not perfect at doing. Your brain has to forget about stuff, to remember new stuff that it's more important to you at the moment. Yes, it is good at retaining certain experiences that are important to you as you keep on living, but there are other things that your brain has to forget. Your memory is not fundamental for your brain to work, especially memory of like moments, of dear moments to your heart. Eventually you'll forget them if you're immortal. Maybe something that's really important to you right now eventually will not be as important, because you'll just forget it, because that's how it works. Now all of this leads to the other thing, your perception of time. You might remember that time seemed to go a lot slower when you were younger. Not necessarily because time is going faster, although it kind of is, physics stuff, I'm not gonna get into it. For example, when you were 4 years old, 1 year was a fourth of your life. Let's say now you're like, I don't know, like me, you're 18. 1 year is 1/18th of your life. If you're 1,000,000 years old, then 1 year is just 1,000,000th of your life, which means that it's nothing. You'll start moving a lot slower than the rest of the world, because you now have a better perspective of what 1,000,000 years is. Infinite experiences. This is why normally people are like, oh yeah, I would love to be immortal because I'll get to live everything. Everything. This means both the good things in life and the bad things in life. Yes, you will fall in love, but you will also be tortured, and there's no way that you won't live through those things. You have to. In the book there's a very good quote. There is a very high possibility that I will eventually write the Odyssey, such as Homer. You know, our main character is saying this. What it's not very likely is that I will never write the Odyssey. With infinite time, eventually you'll have to do everything. So by being immortal, you're making sure that you go through the most horrible atrocities that humankind can feel and go through. Here's another thing. Part of the thing that makes us motivated to do things in life is that it's eventually going to be over. You just have a limited amount of time to be on Earth, and you have to do as much as you can with it. You know you'll eventually do everything. Why do it right now? I'll eventually have to do it. Maybe I shouldn't do it right now. Maybe right now I should just sit down or lay down or just stare at the sky. There's no reason for you to do anything. There's no real reason. You'll have to convince yourself, and that can only last for so long. Eventually, all experiences will start being meaningless in the large scope of your lifespan. You just won't be attached to any particular moment. You know you'll forget about them. You know that you'll probably experience them again. You know that if you're not experiencing something right now, then probably you'll feel it later. You just won't be attached to anything. You won't be able to connect with anyone. You'll just stop living your life because there's no reason for you to do it. But then you can say, maybe I won't be attached to anything, but I'll still be me. I'll be me forever. Well, not really. With living every single experiences on Earth and having no attachment to anything, no motivation, not being able to perceive time the same way everyone does, and forgetting about the core memories of your life, you'll eventually just lose all your values and your morality. Morality and values are very, very human. So if you lose all of it, if you lose morality, you won't be a human anymore. You have been a victim of genocide, and you have committed genocides yourself. You have been a victim of torture, and you have committed torture yourself. Here's the thing I want to touch on. Living forever is actually kind of sad. Humans are meant to die. That's part of our existence. That's part of who we are. Part of life is death. So, Gaby, come here. Come closer. Happy birthday. I forgot to say happy birthday to you, so this is your present. I hope you liked it. Also, live your life. Not Gaby. Like, of course Gaby, yes, but everyone. Just like, live your life. It's important. Dying is part of the natural cycle of life, and if you didn't have it, you would probably not be human. And being alive is kind of cool, as it is. Maybe living longer would be fun, but you know, like, not dying, that's just like, that's just kind of weird. So yeah.